stepping stone here, because we're going to define antinomianism and two types of antinomianism. You ready? Okay. The first antinomianism, okay, has a single perspective on the law, okay, which removes the ability to love from sanctification. Okay? So in other words, since we're all under law, and since none of us can keep the law perfectly, none of us can love either. So therefore, any love that we would do has to be substituted by the works of Christ through the means of grace. Okay? So the way Martin Luther put it, go about life, you know, here's literally how Martin Luther stated this. You go through life, and it's subjective. Okay? The Christian life is subjective. When you love, you don't know whether it's you loving or it's a manifestation of Christ's work in that you're only experiencing. Okay? Now I'm going to get into a little bit of Martin Luther Platonistic philosophy here. Okay? I won't go too far, just a little bit. All of the material world is passive. All of the material world is passive. It's like water. Water just sits there until it's acted upon. Right? Okay? So what are some active forces that make water do stuff? Temperature, gravity, right? Okay? In the same way, heaven is active. Everything that happens, now you ought to know this. This is good old-fashioned Jonathan Edwards philosophy as well. Okay? And I forget what his philosophy was in particular, but this is also good old-fashioned Jonathan Edwards philosophy that you and I discussed and that you taught on a couple of conferences ago. So, the spiritual realm is active. Everything that happens on earth is only because the spiritual or the invisible acts upon the material. Now, we experience it what's called subjectively. In other words, we experience it just like we're doing it. Just like we made the decision. Okay? And if you remember, Jonathan Edwards taught that the way we experience life, a thought comes into our mind, and it's an idea, and then we decide to act on the idea. But who's the creator of the first thought always? God. Remember that? That's Jonathan Edwards. Okay? So, basically, in the material world, however, though, man is allowed to partake in passive evil. So for man, evil is just like being in a canoe and floating downstream. He's just laying there, okay, doing evil, okay? But again, it's experienced what is an action being acted upon him and what he's just doing passively because he's inherently evil is all experienced as free will. Henceforth, We don't know when we do an act of love in our life, whether it's really us doing it or God doing it. But, we must believe that anything good that happened in our life, that God did, though experienced as if we did it, we have to believe that it's God who did it and not us.
Right.
We have to believe that any acts of love that we do are evil. Because as John Calvin said, in echoing Luther, it's tainted with some kind of sin and it's not perfect law keeping. Okay? So that's the philosophical aspect of it. Okay? Now, what do we hear in church constantly that flows out of that philosophy?
I didn't do it.
I didn't do it. I didn't do it. Hey, brother, thank you so much for giving me that car. I didn't do it. I didn't give you that car. Jesus gave you that car. I didn't. Glory be to God. Blah, blah, blah. You know, we hear this stuff all the time in church. Where do you think that comes from? Okay? Where do you think that stuff comes from? If I believe that I'm really the one that gave you the car out of the goodness of my heart, I'm going to hell. Because all the works of man are as filthy rags. Okay? If Jesus didn't do it and I did it, here we go. How often do you hear this? I have a righteousness of my own. Okay? Enough of that. That's our world philosophy injection into today. Okay?